Okay, this is Kayla Small. I'm reporting for Police Community Relations, CRJ 224, for Professor Trista Baird. Okay, my paper, Strategies to Correct Excessive Use of Force. The U.S. Department of Justice's Community Relations Services, just reading about them, I learned a whole lot. I didn't realize they had such a big deal to do with preventing excessive use of force situations. They consider themselves the government's peacemaker for community conflicts and tensions arising from different races, colors, ethnic groups. They are the only federal agency whose purpose is to assist state and local governments, private and public organizations, and community groups. They pride themselves in preventing and resolving racial and ethnic tensions, any kind of civil disorder, restoring racial stability and harmony. Okay, I work in law enforcement, so this topic really hits home to me. The biggest decision an officer will ever have to make is whether or not to make that decision between life or death, between himself or herself or the person that they're dealing with. You know, a decision like that, even though it's made in a matter of seconds, it has a lifelong impact on not only the community, not only the witnesses that saw it happen, the person's family who suffered the fatality, but not only that, the officer has to deal with that decision for the rest of their life. No matter if they go through court, they go through internal affairs, everything is cleared, none of that matters to the officer, because that officer is going to have to think about that for the rest of their life, whether it was the wrong decision or the right decision. But it doesn't come without consequence or grief, or both. And this is where police community relations come into play. If your community trusts your officers in the area, they know them, they routinely patrol that area. If they're familiar with them, then they learn to trust them. If they call them by first name, we have a lot of communities in my areas where the officers are known by, last name only. They call them that. They have respect for them. They know the people in their community. They know the issues they're facing. They know everything about them. But when something like use of excessive force comes into play, it changes the way the community looks at the police. Because no matter what situation played out, it's always going to look like you took another person's life. Was it really worth all of that? And from an outsider looking in, they may not be able to fathom that. But as one of the insiders, I'm telling you that it's a lot to consider. But most of the guys and girls that I work with, they'll tell you, I'm going to go home regardless. If your sketchy decisions are going to interfere with my plan to go home to my children in the morning, then, you're not going to take my life. Because my life is important to my children. No one should put themselves in the situation of disregarding an officer's, demands, or, nothing they should be asking you to do should be worth putting yourself in harm's way. CRS came up with a checklist of steps to take to prevent turmoil in the community. They call them flashpoints. The first one is, how the police handle and react to the incident. You don't want officers being negative, talking about the situation in front of the witnesses, in front of the community. You want everybody as professional as possible. Keep your mouth shut. If anybody has questions, just tell them there's an investigation going on, and they'll know as soon as it's over. That officer needs to understand that there's going to be several witnesses. This person saw that, this person saw this. And, the interpretation is different for each individual. And falling back on the community relationship is going to be the deciding factor on how this all plays out. Did they trust you? Did that person, did he act out of line? Did he, was that the officer's last option? You always need to have some form of a sergeant or a lieutenant on scene, just because I guess that's just the way it is. People won't rank. When it comes to dealing with issues like that, they think, we don't need the rookie on the street dealing with this situation. We need somebody of power, because they trust them more. The community's going to be watching close. They could be filming any kind of response that they get from the officers. There's always, cell phones out. Just assure the community that you're doing what's right for them. You're going to get the answers they need. The full investigation. You need to make sure they know that the officer is on leave without pay until further, or on leave with pay until, the investigation's over. Make sure they know he or she's not on the street. Let them know that it's okay to protest. It's okay to rally, but do it in a sensible way. Make it easy for them to get in the street and have vigils and, pray together and take out their frustration. They're frustrated. It's natural. Just ensure that they know there's a complete investigation. This will help deter any other disruption while the case is being investigated. Don't talk to the media. Encourage community leaders to get up with the media, hold meetings with police officials, and just make sure that rumors aren't getting spread in the community. Make sure that anything that is going out into the community is fact, straight from the police official. In today's society, at the end of my essay, I say we all have to keep on our toes. The majority of officers are trained and have the heart to uphold the law. I can't think of one that I don't work with that wouldn't do whatever it took to go home. But I also know that all the officers that I work with as a 911 dispatcher, I know they all have the heart for the job. They all want to do the best. They all want to be the best. And they're all in it for one reason: to help people, to make a difference, to be a better person for their community. They're the ones that we call when we need help. They run towards us when we're running away. They help us in our time of need. That's what they're there for. And of course, one bad apple can always spoil the bunch. But just know that the majority of officers out there are there to uphold the law and be the best they can be for their community. And they all strive for that police community relations.